Sarah was a typical teenager with an extraordinary passion for video games. From dawn till dusk, she was glued to her console, exploring virtual worlds and mastering every level. Her room was a shrine to her favorite games, filled with posters, figurines, and an impressive collection of gaming equipment. One stormy evening, as Sarah was deeply immersed in her latest game, Realm of Legends, a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the room. The power went out, plunging her room into darkness. Disoriented, Sarah tried to adjust her eyes, but everything seemed off. Sarah looked down and saw that she was dressed in the armor of her in-game character, a fearless warrior named Arya. She felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. As she ventured deeper into the forest, she encountered various creatures and challenges, just like in the game. She had to use her gaming skills in real life, solving puzzles, battling enemies, and navigating treacherous terrains. Along her journey, Sarah met other characters from the game, who now seemed as real as she was. There was Kale, the wise mage, Lyra, the agile rogue, and Brutus, the strong and loyal warrior. Together, they formed a team and set out on a quest to defeat the game's main antagonist, the Dark Sorcerer. After numerous adventures and battles, Sarah and her allies reached the Dark Sorcerer's lair. The final battle was intense, with each member of the team using their unique skills to fight the sorcerer's minions. Sarah's gaming expertise and strategic thinking proved invaluable. In a climactic showdown, she confronted the Dark Sorcerer and, with the help of her friends, defeated him. As the sorcerer fell, a blinding light enveloped Sarah. She felt herself being lifted and spun around, and when she opened her eyes again, she was back in her room. The power had returned, and her console was displaying the end credits of Realm of Legends. Sarah sat up, her heart still racing. The experience had felt so real. She looked around her room, now appearing mundane compared to the vibrant game world she had just left. Despite the adventure being over, Sarah felt a newfound appreciation for the real world and the friends she had in it. From that day on, Sarah balanced her love for games with real-life adventures. She spent more time with her friends and family, sharing her incredible story. She also became a more skilled gamer, her real-life experience enhancing her gameplay. Sarah's journey into the game world taught her the importance of balance, courage, and the power of friendship. Sarah turning off her console, a smile on her face as she heads out to meet her friends. The camera pans to her gaming setup, now a reminder of the extraordinary adventure she once had, and the lessons she would never forget. Sarah couldn't resist the pull of Realm of Legends and decided to revisit the game that had once transported her to another world. As she booted up the game, a strange glitch flickered on the screen. The graphics distorted, creating an eerie image of a twisted face that seemed to stare directly at her. She leaned in closer, her brow furrowing in confusion. Before she could react, the screen went dark, and a low hum filled the room. Suddenly, a flash of light enveloped her, and she was pulled into the game once again. When Sarah opened her eyes, she found herself in a dark, desolate village she had never seen before. The houses were dilapidated, their windows shattered, and the streets were shrouded in an unnatural fog. She looked down and saw that she was once again dressed in the armor of her in-game character, Arya. As she cautiously walked through the village, she felt a chill run down her spine. Shadows flitted at the edges of her vision, and she could hear distant, ghostly whispers. Her hand instinctively went to the hilt of her sword, her eyes darting around, searching for any sign of danger. A sudden crash echoed from one of the houses, causing Sarah to jump. Her heart pounded in her chest as she approached the house, her grip tightening on her sword. Inside, she found Kale, the wise mage, looking distressed. His eyes widened with relief when he saw her. "Sarah, you're here. The game has been corrupted by a malevolent force," he said, his voice trembling. "We must find a way to stop it before it consumes us all." Sarah nodded, determination hardening her features. "Let's do it. Lead the way, Kale." As they strategized, ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with a sinister light. Sarah and Kale barely had time to react before the ghosts attacked. Sarah swung her sword with precision, slicing through the ethereal forms, while Kale cast powerful spells, creating bursts of light and energy that repelled their attackers. The air was filled with the sounds of battle, and Sarah's face was set in a grim mask of concentration. She moved with agility and strength, her every movement purposeful and controlled. Despite their efforts, the ghosts were relentless, their wails echoing in the night. Just as they thought they had a moment of respite, a dark, towering figure appeared before them. The dark sorcerer, more powerful and vengeful than ever, loomed over them, his eyes burning with hatred. "You cannot escape me, Sarah," he hissed, his voice echoing with malice. "Your presence has reignited my power, and now you will be trapped here forever." Sarah's jaw clenched, and she took a step forward, her sword at the ready. "We'll see about that," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. Kale led Sarah to a hidden sanctuary, a place of refuge and ancient knowledge. As they entered, the tension in the air seemed to ease slightly. Lyra and Brutus were already there, their faces lighting up with hope at the sight of Sarah. "We've discovered a way to defeat the dark sorcerer," Lyra said, her eyes shining with determination. "There's a hidden artifact deep within the forbidden forest that can destroy him once and for all." Sarah nodded, her resolve firm. "Then that's where we're headed." The journey through the forbidden forest was fraught with danger. The trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like claws. Shadows moved unnaturally, and the air was thick with tension. They faced terrifying creatures and deadly traps at every turn. Sarah led the way, her senses heightened, every muscle in her body coiled and ready to spring into action. Lyra's agile movements complemented Sarah's strength, while Kale's wisdom and Brutus's brute force created a balanced team. Each encounter tested their skills and their bond, but they pressed on, driven by their mission. At the heart of the forest, they found the artifact, a glowing crystal pulsating with ancient energy. As they reached for it, the dark sorcerer appeared, his power amplified by the corrupted game world. The final battle was fierce and desperate. Sarah's movements were a blur of speed and precision as she fought with all her might. Kale's spells illuminated the dark forest, while Lyra's quick strikes and Brutus's powerful blows kept the sorcerer's minions at bay. The dark sorcerer's laughter filled the air, mocking their efforts. But with a final, coordinated effort, they managed to harness the artifact's power, directing it at the sorcerer. With a burst of light, the artifact unleashed its energy, banishing the dark sorcerer and purging the corruption from the game. Sarah felt herself being pulled back, the world around her fading into a swirl of colors and light. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her room. The console was off, and the game disc lay shattered on the floor. She took a deep breath, her heart still racing from the adrenaline. She knew she could never play Realm of Legends again, but the experience had taught her invaluable lessons about courage, friendship, and the thin line between reality and fantasy. Sarah stepped outside, the sunlight warm on her face. She looked around, appreciating the real world with new eyes. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger, and she knew she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Her friends were waiting for her, their faces lighting up with smiles as she approached. She had a story to tell, one that was filled with action, suspense, and the strength of the human spirit. As she joined her friends, she knew that the adventure was far from over, but she was ready to face it head-on, with courage and determination. Like, subscribe and share for more interesting stories.